evening and welcome. This is Primetime News on TV1. I'm Jamal Ratnayaka for the Newsfirst team.
Good evening, I am Michaela Fernando. Before we head into more news in detail, here's a look at headlines.
Bus falls off a precipice in Passara. Several reported dead, over 40 injured. Ranjan Ramanayaka's phone conversations made public. Look at Sri Lanka positively. President requests the European Union. Former President agrees to provide a statement to the CID on the April 21st attacks. Mahanayaka Thera opposes production and import of ethanol. US-Iran tensions escalate further. Response to attack will be military, says top military official. Iran offers $80 million bounty on Trump.
Taking a look at your top story, police confirmed that 7 people were killed after a SLTB bus fell off a precipice at a 6th milepost along the Madal Seema Road in Passara Badulla. Police media spokesperson SP Jalia Senaratna said that 40 people were injured. The injured were admitted to the Passara and Badulla hospitals. Sources confirmed that some of the injured are in a critical condition. The bus had begun its journey towards Akiria at around 4:30 this evening. The accident had occurred at 5:20 p.m.
அப்படினா என்ன செய்யணும் பெரிய பெரிய கம்பு போட்டு பிடிக்கணும் நிறைய பேர் இன்னைக்கு ஆச்சுக்கிட்டா கம்பு போட்டு பிடிக்கிற மாதிரி ஏதாச்சும் ஒரு வழி இருந்து போட்டு பிடிச்சி கம்பு வெட்டி வச்சு கம்பு வெட்டினா ஆயிரம் பேர் கூட பிடிக்கலாம் தானே ஒரு கெம்மைக்கு 10 பேர் பிடிக்கலாம் தானே ஆயிரும். அம்புகளை வெட்டினா எங்கிட்ட ஆள் பிடிக்க போயிடும்.
The Mahanayaka Thera of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera, today expressed his displeasure over the promotion of local ethanol production.
Minister of Plantation Industries and Export Agriculture Dr. Ramesh Pathirana and State Minister Janaka Wakkumbura paid reverence to the prelate of the Malwatu Mahaviharaya.
Ethanol අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වන ආමතුරණේ රටේ නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් පිටරටින් ගෙන්වීම නතර කරන්න ක්‍රමානුකූලව. ඒකත් මේ නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්න. ඒක. නායකයන්ට සීනි හදනකොට නිකම්ම නිෂ්පාදනය වෙනවා.
Several phone conversations that took place between Ranjan Ramanayaka and several other people were made public today at a media briefing convened by the SLPP.
State Minister Rohith Abeguna Wardana and State Minister Lakshmanya Abeguna joined this media briefing. All of you have heard this recording of the phone conversations that took place between MP Ranjan Ramanayaka and the former director of the CID Shani Abesekara that is circulating on social media.
අද මේ වන විට මේ රටේ සියලුම මාධ්‍ය ජාලය තුල අපි හැමෝටම දකින්න අහන්න ලැබෙනවා.
දැන් ශානි මහයුවා යාළුවෝ අපි කාලෙකින් නම් දන්නවා. දැන් මගේ මොනවාරි මිස්ෆයර් එකක් වෙලා තියෙනවද? මගේ මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ නඩුවට? ඔව් සර් රණවසම්බෙන්ට කතා කරපු ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්. ඇයි මගේ යාළුවානේ? හරි මේ යාළුකම් ඉවරයිද? ඕ කතා කරා මේක කියලා ඕවා කොහොම අනිත්‍යයෙන්ම පත් වුණොත් එහෙම නේ අරයක තීන්දුවට එකඟ වෙලා ලිව්වොත් අපි ඉවරයි නේ. එයාගේ ප්‍රයිවට් ෆෝන් එකට මගේ ප්‍රයිවට් ෆෝන් එකෙන් ගත්තේ. අයි මම විතරයි ඒක පිටින් දන්නේ ඔයා විතරයි. දැන් කතා කරා තියෙන එක කොහොම හරි මමත් දැනගත්තනේ. ඉතින් ඔයාට විතරයි මම කිව්වේ.
මේ ඇවිත් එක සිද්ධියක් විතරයි. මේ තව
පිසු රංජන් එතන ඉන්න පදිනි රණක ගුණ දිලකයි අනිත් ඔය මෙයාගේ නම් ටික කිව්වා. කවුද ඉන්න අනිත් ජජි කවුද? මේ ජජ්ලා නම් කියලා කිව්වා. උන් හරි මොරයිස් මෙයයි උන් ජෙනුයින් අය එහෙම වෙනවා කියලා නම් ආරංචියක් නැහැ. දුනින්දට කෙලවෙනවා කියලා තමයි ආරංචිය තියෙන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් මම කට වහගෙන හිටියා. මම දැන් ඔයාගෙන් ආව එක වෙනයි මේ ආපු එක වෙනයි හින්දා මම එතන නිකන් ශබ්ද වහලා හිටියා. දැන් මම හිතන්නේ එහෙමනම් මේ කෝල් එකෙන් පස්සේ වෙන්න ඕන. ඉතින් ඔයානේ මාව බය කරලා මේ නිකන් මාව නිකන් මේවා හරි ඒ දවස්වල සිබ්බදී තමයි මම කිව්වේ සර්. ඊමද තිබුණාද ඔයා බොරුවට බය වුණාද? නෑ ඒක සිබ්බ එහෙමක. දැන් මං කියන්නම් දැන් නම් සීම කෙනෙක් එක්ක මේ ගැන කතා කරන්න එපා මනසට. ඒකේ ගෙදර ඇවිල්ලා පොලි වැඩ කරන්න වෙනවා. මට අපි දෙන්නගෙම ඉලක්කය හරයව යවන එකනේ. ඉතින් ඒ හින්දා අපි දෙන්නම දැන් මං වාකියේද මං කටවහන්න මට අප්සෙට් ගියේ. ඔයා කියනවා වෙඩි කාලේ මරණක් කවන්නේ මට වෙඩි තිබ්බට කවුරුත් නෑ. මොකද සර් මම පොලිසියෙන් එහෙම කිව්වම අපි අප්සෙට් වෙන්නේ නැද්ද? මේ වගේ නෙල්ලාරි දාලා යනවා කිව්වම.
තව තියෙනවා මේ මං හිතන්නේ මේ මෙන්න මේවා තමයි පොලිසිය හරියට විමර්ශනය කරන්න ඕන.
දැන් මගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ ශානි මේකයි තරහ නැතුව මේක අහන්න මැදින් පැනලා මේ ඩිස්ටර්බ් කරලා අහන්නේ කතාව. දැන් ඔයාගේ ටාගට් එක දුමින්ද යවන එක. මගේ ටාගට් එක දුමින්ද යවන එක. පාර්ථගේ වයිෆ්ගේ ටාගට් එක දුමින්ද යවන එක. දුරුනිකාගේ ටාගට් එක දුමින්ද යවන එක. එතකොට අපේ පාර්ශව සියලු දෙනාගේම ඉලක්කය දුමින්ද යවන එක වෙලා ඇයි අපි මේ හැප්පෙන්නේ? රංජන්ගේ ටාගට් එකක් තියෙන නේද? රංජන් ඉතින් මොකද හරිද? ඒකට හිතුව මේ රංජන්ගේ සර්. ඉතින් අය රංජන් ඉන්නේ දුමින්ද පැත්තද?
I will present you the conversations he had with the lady judges at the next week's media briefing. We do not need any more evidence to prove that the decisions taken by the Yahapalane government did not only bend the law, but they destroyed the law and cornered the courts into a very helpless situation. There is no need of any evidence. Ranjan Ramanayaka has to be arrested not on the charges of not having a license for the firearm he possessed, but for these. He has to be summoned and statements has to be recorded from him and an investigation has to be conducted regarding this. I request the IGP to enact the law against Ranjan Ramanayaka and Shani Abesekara regarding these voice recordings that are being circulated on social media.
මාධ්‍ය ජාලය තුල සැරිසරන මේ හඬපටේ අරගෙන කරුණාකර සානි අබේසේකරවත් රංජන් රාමනායකවත් මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් නීතිය ඔවුන්ට ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න. රටේ මතයක් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
An opinion can be formed within the society that we are trying to release wrongdoers from prison after coming into power. Just as Minister Rohita mentioned, now there has been another opinion formed making things clear who wanted Duminda Silva to be imprisoned. So the preparations for that might come to light in the future. As politicians, we cannot provide instructions for this, but the police have a clear path ahead them. There is evidence to take action against that official. They have to take prompt action. We think the Secretary of Defence should issue an order for this, not a political order. They have to approach this in an independent manner.
Government MPs spoke in relation to the voice recordings that were released. The police got a search warrant not for a minor reason. They wanted to find evidence of influence on the judiciary and state officials during the past 5 years. Many compact discs containing evidence on such influences have already been found. This time it's not only Ranjan but the people above him as well are in trouble. We would like to request the police and the police commission not to act in a manner like this to inconvenience our government. We would like to state that we strongly believe that the perpetrators of the biggest scam in the country should be brought to justice. All these voice recordings will be revealed soon. Then, not just Ranjan Ramanayaka. Ranjan Ramanayaka once spoke of shrimps and whales. We will see who the shrimps are and who the whales are. Actually, his house was not searched for obscene videos, but for those voice recordings. When the cases are filed based on the voice recordings, you will be able to see exactly what we did. Meanwhile, the United National Party questioned on how the CDs seized by the police were released to the media. Now, when they mess things up, they are trying to pass the buck to the police. They say it is the police and not them. Who is the minister in charge of the police? It is President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The state minister is Jamal Rajapaksa. Then there is the defense secretary. Will they arrest a parliamentarian without the knowledge of any of these people? These are bedtime stories. When you look at the media, some other people are saying that they received information on some CDs, and that is why they searched the house, and that the licensed firearm was found later. They already know what is on the CDs. How did they find out about the content of the CDs that is in the custody of the police? This is nothing but political revenge. Former Minister Patli Sampika Ranawaka spoke regarding the rising cost of essential goods.
They hope to reduce the cost of goods and ease the burden on the people through reducing the value-added tax and through other tax concessions. Today the cost of goods have spiraled out of control and the president of the country has to walk from market to control it. This is not a change in the system. Yesterday it was reported that all main development projects have been suspended until August. There is no point in blaming our government for that. We will support this government to pass a budget at any time. That is not the true story. The true story is that the government has lost more than 600 billion rupees of income because of these tax concessions.
රුපියල් බිලියන 600කට අධික ප්‍රමාණයක් ආණ්ඩුවට අහිමි වුණා.
There would have been an impact caused on the country's economy, but the forensic audit of the central bank showed that this had been happening even before that. We ask for that forensic audit to be presented. I would also like to say that this government will be signing the MCC agreement after the general election. If not, we ask them to clearly state that they will not sign it. Also, the fuel pricing formula, they were laughing about it. Why are they implementing the fuel pricing formula now? They are implementing it to fulfill the conditions of the IMF. The IMF is reviewing the situation in the country since March. They are implementing the fuel pricing formula because they are scared that the IMF will leave Sri Lanka if the fuel pricing formula is removed.
ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදල අපේ ක්‍රියාවලියෙන් ඉවත් වෙයි කියන බයටයි මිල සූත්‍රය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ.
In more local news, the United National Party today alleged that 7 of the most senior officials at the Treasury had been transferred. They made these remarks at a press briefing convened in Colombo today.
We got to know that 7 of the senior officials coming under the Treasury at the Finance Ministry have been transferred immediately. The Deputy Secretary to the Treasury, the Director General of the National Budget Department, the Director General of the Commerce and Investment Policies Department, the Director General of Development Finances, Director General of Management Services and the Director General of the National Policy Planning Department. These were the most senior officials in the Treasury, and in place of them, junior officers have been appointed. We would like to say very clearly to Gotabaya Rajapaksa, we do not know if you are aware of these moves or if Finance Minister and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa is doing that on his own terms. We demand a clear statement be made before the country.
මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාගේ හිතුමතයටද මේවා වෙන්නේ කියන එක අපි දන්නේ නැහැ. පැහැදිලි ප්‍රකාශයක් රටට අවශ්‍යයි කියන කාරණේ මතක් කරන්න ඕන.
Here are some of the views expressed by factions supporting the ruling party and factions supporting the opposition on the increase of costs of vegetables and other essential goods in the country. The government has reduced indirect taxes. When taxes are increased, vendors are swift to increase the prices of goods. But still, the benefit of these tax concessions have not been given to the people. The Consumer Affairs Authority has officers across all districts. They must send them to inquire into this. The poor people of the country are drowning in debt. The government took a decision to release them from this, especially the poor farmers of the country. The government must send this money to the banks and implement it.
ප්‍රශ්නය.
Regarding the issue surrounding the price of rice, just like we said, the price cannot be controlled through a gazette. This cannot be done because of the monopoly on rice held by 4 rice mill owners. These rice mill owners recently started to say that they only have stocks of Kiri Samba rice. I would like to say that this is a lie. These farmers go to sell their produce as soon as they reap the harvest because they have to pay off their loans. There are people who provide microfinances, and then there are rice mill owners. There are about 25 people who control these finance companies. They are the ones who control the economy. They always have money even if the government does not have money. These are the people who then influence officials and politicians of the country.
දේශපාලඥයන්ට බලපාන මේ කට්ටිය.
Meanwhile, Samantha Vidyaratna expressed these views at a media briefing held in Badulla today.
The fire that has erupted within the government of Sri Lanka is bigger than the fires that have erupted in Australia. When a government of a country is functioning, you cannot follow 2 agendas. The country must be taken along the lines of 1 agenda. There cannot be 2 leaders. The country must be led by 1 leader. There cannot be 2 power centers. 1 person must exercise the power. We can see that there are 2 powers that are implementing 2 different agendas in the country.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka announced its roadmap for monetary and financial sector policies for 2020 this morning. Now, Newsfirst's Zeenat Musafir filed this report.
The 13th roadmap of the Central Bank was delivered by the new governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, this morning. Now, during his address, one of the key points that the new governor pointed out was that the Central Bank hopes to maintain headline inflation within 4 and 6% during the year.
The advancement in the past few years, the developments in the past few years have shown that at times there was a trade-off between macroeconomic stability and economic growth. While stability is important, a people-centric government cannot ignore its social and human development objectives, especially when Sri Lanka is ready for its economic takeoff.
Now, during his address, the new governor, Professor W.D. Lakshman, also said that Sri Lanka will enact a new banking act in 2021. He said that regulations will also be introduced to supervise banks being set up in the Colombo International Financial Center, which will be situated in the Chinese-built Colombo port city.
The central bank intends to set up a task force with the participation of relevant stakeholders to introduce an appropriate cost-reflective benchmark interest rate for pricing loan products. We believe that this measure will improve healthy competition among banks while supporting efficient transmission of monetary policy measures. In line with the envisaged low inflation environment, we expect to ensure reasonably low nominal interest rates over the medium term to boost domestic economic activity. However, we understand that low nominal interest rates could affect fixed income earners, particularly senior citizens in this fast-aging society. In this regard, we encourage banking and other financial institutions to develop new financial products to suit the needs of such affected segments of the population.
The governor noted that the CBSL, being the custodian of the Employees Provident Fund, the largest superannuation fund in Sri Lanka, continued to effectively carry out its fund management activity. He added that during 2019, the secondary market transaction in government securities and investment activities in the equity market were recommended.
The central bank has also undertaken several upgrades to the analytical and monitoring method for micro and macroprudential regulations to ensure that they are on par with global standard practice. These include the adoption of an internal rating system and an early warning system to identify high-risk financial institutions with a view to taking preemptive measures when necessary. During 2019, the central bank continued to take measures to strengthen the payment and settlement infrastructure through modern technology. Financial institutions and central bank have already invested significantly to enhance the usage of innovative systems of digital payment and settlement. It is expected that the general public will increasingly make use of these more efficient methods of payment.
The governor also said the central bank has revisited certain provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act number 12 of 2017 and proposed amendments to the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act would be completed by early 2020. The central bank is currently in the process of introducing an international transactions reporting system, a comprehensive monitoring system of cross-border transaction and foreign currency transactions through the banking system. IGP Pujit Jayasundara, who was sent on compulsory leave, and former Secretary of Defence Hemasiri Fernando have been remanded until the 20th of this month.
The duo, remanded over charges of failing to take action to prevent the April 21st attacks, were produced before Colombo Additional Magistrate Priyantha Liyanage today. Deputy Solicitor General Dileepa Piris, who appeared on behalf of the Attorney General's Department, stated in court that a statement will be recorded on the incident from former President Maithripala Sirisena tomorrow and the day after. Dileepa Piris said that although the former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been informed to provide a statement on the incident, a date for the statement to be recorded on has not been confirmed as yet. He stated that statements are also due to be recorded from the Governor of the Western Province Azad Sali and former Governor of the Eastern Province MLAM Hizbullah.
In more local news, the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to extend the suspension of Perpetual Treasuries Limited by another 6 months. Thereby, PTL is suspended from carrying on the business and activities of a primary dealer for a period of 6 months from the 5th of January 2020 in order to continue the investigations being conducted by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. In a statement, the Central Bank said the Monetary Board of the Central Bank reached this decision and was acting in terms of the regulations made under the Registered Stock and Securities Ordinance and the Local Treasury Bills Ordinance.
Irrelevant of the government that holds power, as a media organization that stands for truth and the people's right to know, we cannot forget the incidents that transpired on the 6th of January 2009. On a day like today, 11 years ago, media freedom in the country and the right to free speech was dealt a serious blow.
The Sirasa Media Network had just completed the installation of a new state-of-the-art studio complex in Depanama to enhance the television experience of our loyal and ardent viewers. As the first attempt, on the 2nd of January 2009, a group of unidentified assailants began their attack on the Depanama studio complex by throwing petrol bombs at the studio. 3 days after that, on the 5th of January, a white van without a license plate was seen patrolling around the Depanama studio complex. While law enforcement agencies were informed of this imminent threat, on the 6th of January at 2:10 AM, a gang of armed thugs broke into the Sirasa studio complex. The professional assailants first attacked the security personnel at the studio complex, and their next target was the main television broadcast control room of the studio. The group, who destroyed all the equipment at the studio complex, escaped after rigging 2 Claymore bombs at the studio complex. During the government analysts' investigation after the attack, an 8-kilogram Claymore explosive was found active at the main control room of the studio complex. Despite the brand new studio complex being completely reduced to ashes, within a few hours, we were able to begin telecasting as a sign of the strength that we found in our unity. Law enforcement agencies launched investigations into the attack, and politicians at the time promised swift action against the perpetrators. Within 48 hours of the attack on the Sirasa studio complex, veteran journalist Lasantha Wickrematunge, who arrived at the location and condemned the attacks, was murdered in Athidiya. The attack on the Sirasa studio complex and the murder of veteran journalist Lasantha Wickrematunge are still unresolved cases. This blatant attack on media freedom will forever remain a dark reminder of the oppressive times that Sri Lanka has endured. We strongly believe and continue to believe in the power of the people. The people of the country saw how former Minister Ranjan Ramanayake was arrested for not having a valid license for his official firearm. Why aren't responsible authorities who were so enthusiastic and prompt to arrest an MP for not having a license for his official weapon issued by the government, showing similar interest in bringing to justice the perpetrators who rigged 2 Claymore bombs at a media institution. Claymore bombs are not freely available for purchase. It has to be stocked and transported before being used. What is the origin of such large-scale explosives? Shouldn't these matters be investigated? A large stock of weapons without serial numbers were found on board the Avant-Garde floating armory. Shouldn't these matters also be investigated? Certain people who were behind these attacks are now facing the consequences of their actions brought about by the natural order. While it is pertinent that the perpetrators of these crimes be mindful of the concept of karma or the deity watching upon the people from above, the people of the country are also still waiting for justice to be served.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you for watching.
Before we leave you tonight, it is pertinent to remind you that wildfires which are ravaging across Australia have destroyed the lives of many Australian citizens, including the flora and fauna of Australia. And we leave you tonight with a gentle and kind reminder to keep Australia in your prayers as Australia endures this testing time. Good night.